Well, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm ready for my massage after that. That music always puts me in a mood to get a massage. I don't know why.
The question is, what type of massage?
I any kind will do.
We're talking
No,
hot
no hot
stone,
rocks though. No hot rocks on my back.
no rocks. Okay, you don't like rocks. Well, you don't like rocks in your body.
No, not rocks on the body. No. Nope.
All right, got two viewers. Let's give a couple more minutes, people to come on in, and then we'll get started.
All right.
How has your week been, Joel?
My week has been all right. It's not been not too bad. So, how about you?
I know there's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot to cover.
A lot, yeah. I
From
was kind of wondering what you were going to pick for the topic. So.
Yeah, there's just so much, from the Iran peace to the FIFA World Cup to Trump's fantastic UFC fight in the front lawn in front of the People's House. Like, there's so much cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
But the more I tried finding a topic, I quickly realized, wait, there's something more important that trumps everything else, and that is Father's Day. Father's Day is coming up, and I figure in this session we can really focus on honoring the fathers. So, looks like hang out for a little bit, wait for people to start flowing in, and then we will get started. Right now, actually, it's been raining pretty nasty up here.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, like weird. It's been super hot, but then today it's like
okay. Well, we got the marine layer in Southern California, which May and June just is depressing around here. It's just
really
gray. Oh yeah, gray all morning usually. Oh yeah,
huh.
We're along the coast. There's this what they call the marine layer, and just so usually breaks up about 1 or 2, but by that time you're like So we're not very tough weather people here, Ben.
Well, speaking of not tough weather people, all the people traveling to the U.S. from Europe and Asia are also like, this whole weather thing like is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, what we'll do, I'll go and start playing the video, and then we'll see when people will start coming in.
Okay.
All right, let's do it. So again, this video focuses on masculinity and why masculinity peaks as a Christian. And this is the right foundation to set if we want to talk about fathers.
Masculinity peaks in Christianity. You know why? Because Christianity has the perfect archetype of masculinity, Christ. When he was on earth as a man, he demonstrated all the core values of the perfect masculine: responsibility over comfort, moral courage, order over chaos, emotional mastery, identity rooted beyond status, patience as strength, and most importantly, restraint over violence and impulses. Modern masculinity argues between two shallow poles: be feared and supreme, or be harmless and kind. Christ demolishes both. He shows a third category: be a man so powerful and choose mercy without losing authority. In history, there are countless emperors and gods who claimed absolute authority. But if you look closely, they almost always follow the same trajectory. Their influence hardens into pride. Desire grows into excess. Conviction turns into wrath. Purpose decays into greed. Comfort dulls into sloth. Abundance feeds lust. And when the damage is done, they don't repent. They reframe and rename their sins. The only exception remains Jesus. Like children shaped by the character of their father, a man is shaped by the authority he submits to. When a man submits to Jesus, his standard becomes Christ. Follow a corrupted God, and there's an excuse to abuse your strength. To follow Christ is to be mentored by the highest form of masculinity ever revealed to humans. You become like the one you kneel to, and no man ever knelt to a stronger being than him anyone can destroy. Rage comes easiest to humans. Give a child a gun with enough rage, he'll put an end to a life. Men need spectacle and domination to prove their masculinity. But can they suffer without turning bitter? Can they be wronged without striking? Can they hold power and not use it to soothe their ego? Most men can't. That's why they reject this model. It restricts their wicked and evil ways that they justify with hardship and cruelty. There's only one man who rose above this. Therefore, men in Christ are a threat to the falling moral standards of this world. The Son has formed sons. A man should be capable of great violence, but have it under voluntary control. Christ embodies this perfectly. He had the divinity and authority over the angels. Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? That's over 70,000 angels, restrained by the command and will of the Son. But Christ was fixed on his mission. That's why history is full of conquerors, but only one Jesus. History needed conquerors. Empires rise on force. Nations are built on blood. Alexander conquered lands. Caesar conquered nations. Genghis Khan conquered bodies. And Christ saved the human race. And no, being Christian alone doesn't make men automatically masculine. A Christian man is guilty of sins and imperfect. But when Christ is the focus, then over time a man is shaped towards steadiness, restraint, courage, humility, and sacrificial strength. Because the faith that goes against all sin is the faith that produces the strongest men.
This channel's called Godded or Goaded, Goded, and all their videos are in the same format where they're short form content, but it gets right to the topic clearly and concisely. And I like how this began with a declaration. It was like, masculinity peaks at Christianity. End of story, bar none. So when it comes to a moment like Father's Day, like what major connections do you see with that day to what's the message here?
Well, it's striking. I'm going through the Old Testament now, reading the Bible in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it strikes me how important God chose fathers and sons so often.
Oh, yeah.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right?
Yeah.
Jacob's 12 sons. And then when you get to the kings, obviously, David, his son Solomon, his son Rehoboam, and so much of the sins of the fathers were visited on the children, especially,
right.
Solomon blew it so much that, which is what we're reading right now, that Rehoboam, who was wicked anyways, but he inherited this kingdom split because of what Solomon had done, and David couldn't build a temple because of what he had done, so there's this, and God chose this model of a father, and he chose to manifest himself as the father too. So that just seems to be the mode that he chose to reveal himself, and how he chose to form his people.
Right.
The nation of Israel was through fathers and sons, as imperfect as they were. But then after Jesus came, and we don't hear much about Joseph, after Jesus is born, there's really not a lot about Joseph. So there seems to be this kind of change of the sins of the fathers are not visited on the sons, and but yet God still reveals himself as a father. He's like, no, it was through all these imperfect fathers that I showed you how this is not going to work. I had to do this to show you just how depraved and just how necessary it was for me to be the sacrifice. So I'm going to send my son as the ultimate sacrifice, as the ultimate act of a father, right? And so I think it's interesting, that I just noticed recently that dynamic changed in the New Testament. Now we look to God as the model, as our father. And like you said, Jesus as the perfect son, the perfect expression of masculinity, because the son, throughout the Old Testament, throughout all history, the son has been father having a son has been the most important thing. Even beyond Christianity and all the other religions. At China, they had the one-child policy, and everyone started having boys. We don't want girls. Abort that girl, have that boy, right? The son. So I think it's just how I think the Old Testament and how the world does it shows how this can be corrupted.
Right.
But then through Jesus, the perfect father sent the perfect son to do the perfect act of sacrifice. And that from now on, that's the standard. That's what we look to.
And we all have that standard as Christians. And you have that standard, but then once you become a father as well, everything changes. All of a sudden, you have different standards in life, but all of a sudden your standard of Christ is even greater, because now you are in charge of another life. You are responsible for sacrificing everything to mold this young life into another young woman or a young man. And so, as using that as like a transition, I just want to give a little history to my dad. And I found some photos on Facebook of my dad. And a lot of years are skipped because I just couldn't find him in the time I had. But let me just give you a brief little history to my dad. So he actually grew up as a missionary kid in Africa. And that was his world. So he could speak fluent Swahili by the age of 18, 20. Like, he lived in his dad, Wimpy Harper was his name. He built a church in Dar es Salaam, which is in
Ethiopia, I think.
Ethiopia or Nairobi. I forgot. It's one of those.
Kenya. Yeah.
So he grew up in a servant world. That was normal to him, right? He came back to the States and he met my mom, and that's him on the right, the far right. Look at that stud. He went for the full Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah, that's 70s, baby, right there.
Yeah.
I recognize that. He could have been my older brother.
Yeah, that's my mom to his right.
Oh, cool.
And then fast forward, my sister came into the picture. That's Rebecca. And then my brother came to the picture. That's Joseph.
All right.
This is a great photo for the time. Like that this is an amazing photo for when it was taken, if you look at the quality of it.
Yeah.
And then at this time, my family were missionaries in South America, mostly Brazil. So my siblings grew up in Brazil well until their teenage years. And then I came into the picture. That's me right there in the middle.
Yeah, little towhead. You still got the same hairdo.
Yeah. And this is also in Brazil. And then fast forward, we got this one, which was taken in Colorado. There's me. And that's my brother. That's my sister. Now, fast forward many, many, many years to when I was in the Air Force. This is when my parents came and visited me when I was in the Azores.
Oh, wow.
And there's my dad to the right. There's my dad again. I like this photo.
Yeah.
And then fast forward again This is when I graduated from Texas A&M.
Oh, okay.
There's my lovely, now she's my wife.
Okay.
My dad. And then last picture I got here, I think, is a great way to finish it up. This was the most recent photo I had. And he's in his 80s now.
Okay.
And there are definitely signs of early on-stage dementia. And he's fully retired. Like he's been retired for a long time. He was a teacher for the longest time after he was a missionary. And yeah, I know there will come a point where, you know, I'll have to take care of him. If something happens to my mom, whatever. But you know, they're still married, they're both retired, living their best life. And of course, they're not perfect, they have their flaws. But my dad definitely played a major role in my life. And like I love my mom, but I'm more closer to my dad. Because all the summers that my mom would go teach summer school, my dad would have us watch guy movies, and he would go make dad food. Like he introduced me to Alfred Hitchcock. He was the one that introduced me to all the 007 James Bond movies. He was the one that let me watch all the movies my mom would never let me watch.
Yeah.
He was the archetype of don't tell mom.
Don't tell mom. Yeah, okay.
And my brother and sister, they were much older than I was.
Right.
So by the time they were off living their own lives, by the time I got to 6th grade. So from 6th grade to senior year, it was just me and my parents.
Right.
So that left a lasting mark on me. And so now, like, my dad's daily routine is walking every single morning, reading scripture, watching NCIS or Criminal Minds or other crime shows, and doing puzzles. That's it. Like that's his life right now. And honestly, I'm all for it. Like, go for it.
Right. Yeah.
You've earned the right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's what I tell people who are trying to, you know, who are fighting with their older parents. I'm like, don't. Just don't. They've earned the right to die the way they want, and you don't want to spend the last years of your life, of your parents' life, fighting with them. It's just, I quickly realized that with my dad when he was on his, you know, about my dad's cigarettes when he was in the care facility. And I wheel him out because, you know, you're 87 years old, you got 6 months to live. Take a few minutes off your life. Go ahead if that's what you want. I mean, you know, it's just it's not worth the fight anymore because they're not going to change. And like I said, you only have a certain amount of time with them. So
right. So if you're comfortable with it, do you feel good about talking about your dad and how he's impacted?
Yeah, my dad was a very interesting guy. He's been gone about 16 years now, 15, 16 years. He was a World War II veteran. I was born in 1960. So I was one of the later baby boomers. And my parents were older. I was the youngest. I had three siblings, kind of like you, that my two brothers were much older than I was, 10 and 12 years old. And my sister was 3 years older. So we kind of had two families, you know, two separate groups of kids. But my dad grew up in Chicago in the 1920s.
Wow.
Yeah. My grandfather was a soldier for Al Capone. And my dad had a rough childhood. And it was a gang childhood. I mean, that's all he knew.
Yeah.
And he, tough little guy. You wouldn't want to mess with him. That's just a whole nother story. My brothers and I have stories about our dad just taking on these 6'4" guys and just leaving them in tears, you know? So he was a rough guy. He fought in World War II and was on a destroyer, which is an amazing story. But and he saw the officers, all the officers who had went to Yale and Harvard, and they were very refined people. And he was this tough mafia kid you know, that didn't have anything. And he saw those, and that made him aspire to a better life. You know, but he was still this rough, and he was a rough guy. He was a rough father at times, never physically, but he really was a person who could reduce anyone to tears just by his presence and his words and his, he was a fighter his whole life. He in World War II, his destroyer got sunk by kamikazes, and he was the last man off the ship. His foot had caught in a hatch as the destroyer went under, and his buddy, who was behind him, opened up the hatch, freed my dad's leg and foot. My dad floated to the surface. His buddy went down. So he had to live with that his whole life, right?
So he was in the Pacific Theater then.
Pacific Theater, yeah. This was the Leyte Gulf was when that happened.
Oof.
So, so I always tell people, this is my dad's story of born in the Depression, or born in gangland Chicago, lived through the Depression, fought World War II, nearly died. Okay, someone's here.
Lucas.
Listen, okay. But so he did all these things, right? All this rough living up until his 21st birthday, or to his 21. That's when his ship went down, and he had a Purple Heart and everything. And he set out to make a better life for his kids than he had, and which was that generation's desire, which is understandable. But the niceties of life were just lost on him. And I always tell people, my dad went through all this, gangland Chicago, Depression, World War II, and he just wasn't interested in my problems and my little complaints.
Well, to him, it's like, are you serious right now?
So you what? Your steak's not medium rare? What?
And of course, PTSD wasn't a thing then. It wasn't really understood.
No, it wasn't. And he would talk about it. I was the one, because I don't know, maybe I'm just the brat of the family, but I was like, enough time had gone by where he would talk to me about these kind of things because I wanted to hear it.
That's good.
I think my brothers and my sister they didn't really want to hear it because they didn't know how to, he was rougher on them than he was on me because age had kind of mellowed on him, but he was still a very rough guy. And no Christian thought at all. And, it's one of those things on his deathbed. I gave him one more chance with the gospel. And he said, no, I don't think so. I think I'm going down there. I said, Dad, you don't have to, even now, Jesus gives you enough grace. He goes, you don't know what I've done. I said, I can probably figure. Yeah. I could probably guess.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. But I said, there's nothing that Jesus's blood doesn't cover, and grace. So I hope at one point that sunk into him before he died. But, it's one of these things where my dad was the kind of guy that on his deathbed, he worried that, this was about 2000, he died in 2010. So, they always say, you can't take it with you, and nobody worries about their balance sheet on their deathbed. Right. My dad was worried about his balance sheet on his deathbed. He was, I had to lie to him and say, no, things are great. The market went right back up. You got all your money back. So there were just too many obstacles in my dad's life for him to sit down and focus and say, okay, this is how I have an honest assessment of myself. Because if he ever stopped fighting, he just didn't know how. He didn't know how to stop fighting. And if there wasn't a fight, he'd start one. It could be on your birthday. It could be on Christmas Eve. It could be, you just never knew. Because he was just always fighting, And, but he managed actually to break the cycle, because my grandfather was the scariest guy you've ever met in your life. He was the prototypical Chicago outfit gangster. Right. He beat the crap out of all of his kids. My uncle used to sleep in the jail. He used to go to the jail and say, can I sleep here tonight? Because my dad's going to beat me when he gets home.
Wow.
But my dad broke that cycle. He never touched us. My mom would say, hey, she said, think about where your dad came from, and think, but then he made things better. Now you make things better with your kids. You don't do what your dad did, Do the good that he did. Don't do the bad that he did. And all of us children have broke that model with our kids. So of being just rough and hard on them. So, you know, he did with the best he could. Mm. And, you know, he did leave us, he managed to raise 4 relatively good contributors to society, relatively, which, you know, about the best he could do. So, but it really, he relied on my mom, and my mom was a saint. My mom was an angel. She was a pastor's kid from a farm in Ohio. Why she married my dad? She married my dad because he promised her that her kids would not go through what she did in the Depression, and that was enough for her. She needed an ambitious man, and this little Italian rough fighter guy she could see that he's gonna make a good life for us. So that was the most important thing. So
once you became a father, what was the number one thing you transferred from your dad to now you being a father to your kids?
Yeah, I'm a stepfather. So, it was just that whole thing. My mom's words just resonated in me. Just when I complained about something Dad did, don't do that to your kids. Make sure that your kids don't have this feeling you have right now, this feeling of being threatened and this insecurity. You make sure that they know that even though you might be upset with them, first of all, don't be upset without a good reason. Right. My dad would just be upset. You didn't know why. But at the same time, he said, don't put them in this position you're in where you're confused, or you're hurt, or you're unsure, and you don't feel safe. So that's the main thing, because you're the model that God the Father is how God manifests himself all through Scripture. So if you want to be a father, I took on this role. I applied for the job and I was accepted, right? As father, as dad, as stepfather, whatever you want to call it, pop. And it's the most important thing in your kids' lives, especially in our son and daughter's life. Right. They had lost a dad and they were out without a dad, and okay, you're going to come and you're going to be my dad. Okay, you better be good. So
yeah, right. And that of course is a very unique dynamic.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing my dad passed on to me that I want to pass on to my eventual kids is servanthood. Like, my dad did live his entire life with a servant career, a servant mindset.
Right.
Missionary, teacher, father, and always not his goal was never to make money. His goal was never to get to a certain financial status. It was always just serve and be content with what you have.
Yeah.
And find joy out of serving. And that was a big factor to me joining the military. My dad didn't serve, but so he was in college during Vietnam, so he was able to avoid the draft. But yeah, for me, my biggest thing to my eventual kids, I want them to understand the importance of finding joy through serving, whether that's serving your community, serving your country, serving your family. Like, your job as the man, or whether I have a child, a son or daughter, doesn't matter. Like, my job as an eventual father is to find joy in the grind, the work every single day, because no matter what, you're always going to do that.
Right. And another thing too is important for a father. In your kids, when you have kids, they're going to be watching the way you treat their mother.
Right.
They're going to be watching the way you treat your wife.
Yeah. And thank goodness, I mean, my wife has her flaws, but let me tell you, like, I think
you married up, didn't you?
I thank God every day that he brought Felicia into my life, because we are absolutely best friends. Like, we are absolute nerds. We are both stupid. We're both funny. We both are weird, and we're far from perfect. But man, like, getting married in 2020 to now, it's like we've endured so many things that has defined a generation. And so, yeah, when we do eventually have kids, whether it's live birth or adoption, my number one rule is find joy in the work. Because no matter what you do, son or daughter, you're always going to work. You will always be in situations that you're not going to enjoy, and you need to find joy in those situations, because that's the only thing that's going to keep you going. And that joy comes from Christ, the ultimate masculine figure. That's the only way you're going to be able to endure the crucibles that come your way. And I'm not going to force my kids into tough situations, but I'm not going to shelter them either. I'm not going to keep them in a bubble, because that's just as bad or worse.
Oh yeah.
You know,
and that's the spirit of the day too. These days.
Like my wife, she'll tell you she was sheltered a lot in her life. Yeah. And her siblings, same thing. They were kept in a bubble, and that wasn't good. When they finished high school, they didn't know what to do, because they were like, you know. So we won't shelter them, but I also will teach my kids, find joy in the toughest of times, because that's what's going to keep you going. So,
all right.
Yeah, that's a great topic, but there'll be so much more topics to cover next week. I promise you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lucas, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, everyone have a great day. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you guys. Thanks. Hey, it's Joel here. If you enjoyed this, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you disagree or have a different thought, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching.